All right. Welcome to the live stream for the Always Andy's Mom podcast. Welcome, Gwen. We are trying this out in
Hello.
the
Thank you.
afternoon. So we will see how we do if we get some participation in an afternoon trial of the podcast, but we're going to hope. All right. So I'm going to explain why, a couple reasons why we're going to do
Okay.
a couple reasons. We're trying this one because we weren't getting a lot of people coming on in the evening anyway. So we thought, let's give the afternoon a try. And the other reason is that I have a basketball game to go to tonight because it's the opening night for our Michigan State basketball game, and we have tickets. So therefore, I could not do it at the normal kind of 7 o'clock time that we've done in the past. So we're going with 4 o'clock and seeing how that goes. So thank you for being accommodating, Gwen.
That sounds great.
All right. So
you're welcome.
We are talking today a lot about the unexpected emotions of grief and just, it's funny because we talked a little bit about this in the last one, kind of why I wanted to do this one. Because a lot of times these are your ideas. And this one was my idea. This was my idea because I just had a guy on the podcast and he wrote a book and he was talking a lot in that book about how some of the emotions that he experienced after losing his wife and 2 daughters in the wildfires, the Smoky Mountain National Park wildfires, that he was surprised by certain emotions and not expecting certain emotions. And so that got me thinking about what are some other emotions that people experience that they might not have experienced or not expected to experience, because I certainly had that little bit of shock. So you thought that'd be a great choice too. So here we are talking about it today.
I think so. Interestingly enough, since we said it, I had a message from one of your listeners who I'm in contact with, and just with some resources and different things. And he brought up the just a very surprised emotion. Okay. Yeah. And I did a video about it, just like being gut punched. Right. And what a gut punch is, how it just stops you and it physically hurts and you were not expecting it. I mean, no one just wants to be walking along and just be bam, but that's what happens. And, we expect sadness and we don't really know the full level of sadness. Thank God we can't know it and don't know it. But some of the other ones that just, totally knock you off your, why am I feeling this? And is this okay? And some of them we're afraid to ask somebody else about because we think if I tell someone that I'm feeling this, they're going to go, you need some help. And I was thinking of our first response in that question of what surprised you. I just want to dig right in because I think that is one of the ones that is so prevalent, but it's hard to talk about, is that resentment.
Yeah.
Other people, and it goes beyond. I mean, she has a definition of what resentment means. It says you feel a complex mix of anger, bitterness, disappointment because they believe you have mistreated them, wronged them, or have not been fair. And she goes on to say, in grief, I felt resentment towards others who have done nothing wrong but lived their life. I guess that is a feeling of it just being unfair, and that is the root of it. But I found myself like being so judgmental of who gets to live and who gets to die, or who gets to have a baby and who doesn't, or who gets to, like, I had a very weird filter and I was embarrassed to tell people, like, go ahead.
I really, really thought that was an important comment too, and very thoughtful that she actually wrote the definition of resentment. I feel like that's usually a Gwen thing. You usually
I do.
Talks about
I do that a lot.
List what the definition of it is, but she went all out and wrote that definition of resentment. This is what it is, and this is how I felt. And I still think we get that. I mean, I still will feel that times, looking at a family and thinking, wow, you don't appreciate even what you have, right? I'm just feeling a little jealousy, a little like, I wish I had that. You don't, and just And you don't,
Mhm.
and it's icky. It's sort of icky to feel that way, I think.
It is. It is because I even, if I um hear of an incident where a law enforcement officer and alleged criminal get into a battle and the officer dies or gets hurt and wounded and the criminal doesn't, I find myself like weighing that out. But still, would I want that criminal's mom to have to hurt over the death of their child? I mean, it's
Mhm.
it's all bad, but I tend to like um yeah, and this from our infertility and things, just like how people could mistreat a child and they've been given one, and it just didn't seem fair. And so I understand that feeling of complete resentment and just everybody else seeming happy. That's also what
Mhm.
it looks like. Because when we
Mhm.
hurt so bad, the perspective or the lens you're looking through is so much pain that when you see other people being happy, it just like almost you just get angry. That
Mhm.
mix, like it said in the definition, the mix of all those feelings.
Yeah, right. And she put the last sentence she wrote is, I guess it's that feeling of just being unfair. And I just talked to
Mhm,
somebody, just had an interview recently, and she said, that she used to, when her kids were alive, like long ago, they used to say, Mom, it's not fair, it's not fair. And she used to say, yeah, life isn't fair. Okay. And things aren't fair. And this is just the way it is. And now, after losing her child, she really realizes what "it's not fair" really truly means, right? She's thinking like,
mhm.
"This is really not fair," and she feels a little bit like a little kid saying it, but this is really unfair. This does not fit. This is just not right, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's just losing your child just doesn't feel right.
And it never will be. I've said that from I mean, one of the very first parents that I ever was in contact with in my career in 87, the fall of 87, a mom, she had an 18-month-old child who died of a cardiac problem. And she said, there's no way to make this right.
No.
And that has stuck in my head for all 38 years. There is no way that you can say, yeah, that was fair, that was right. And I think that's why maybe we do have the resentment or the mixed feelings, is because it is there's no way to justify it when we go, oh, okay. um
Yeah.
you know because in another death, like the death of my own father, I can look at that. I mean, that was the way people are supposed to die. Like, my dad
Yeah.
was 94 at the end of an amazing life, and he
Mhm.
had Parkinson's, and he didn't have quality of life anymore. That's, if I'm going to say death was fair, that was good death. Like, that
Mhm.
was
Mhm.
a good life. But when
Yeah.
you can't say that about someone who was robbed of life. What we
No.
expect, right? What we
Right.
expect life to be. But yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm. So I'm just going to remind people again of what the question was. The question is, can you recall responses or emotions in your grief that surprised you? So if you are listening to the live stream right now and you want to type in some of the responses to grief or emotions that surprised you, feel free to go ahead. So we're going to comment on those as well. So do
mhm.
you want to go on to the next
Sure.
comment? Because there are a
Yeah.
few comments here. I'm gonna change this so I can see
Um,
them all, because right
the
now they
next
weren't all
one
coming in.
said
Yeah,
exhaustion,
go ahead.
physical, emotional, and mental. And I do think that surprises a lot of bereaved people, how physical
Uh-huh.
grief is and
Yes.
how overwhelmingly it, the immobilization, like you just can't even lift up your arms, like
Yeah.
brushing your
Just so
teeth.
tired.
Yeah.
Just so incredibly tired. Yeah.
Mhm.
I
And
remember feeling that. And you're right, it is a surprising thing. I mean, it is amazing what mental anguish does to your physical body.
yes,
They're
yes,
unexpected. Mhm.
yeah. Um,
She actually wrote
I
3 different things. She wrote
just when
3
you
different emotions that surprised her. So the
she
first
did.
one was
Yeah.
exhaustion. Mhm. So we can go on and talk about that one a little bit more, or roll on to the next one, whatever you'd like.
Yeah, my thought left me. It will come back though about exhaustion and the physical. Oh, I was going to say that Alan Wolfelt always says that when you're in grief, you have to go in neutral. And,
Mhm.
we're always used to being in drive, and we really want to go in reverse and go back, but it's like living in that
Yeah.
neutral. And when
Oh
I
my
think
gosh, I
of,
love that.
a car being in neutral, it doesn't go anywhere. It just
Yeah,
sits, and we have to
yeah.
just sit in our grief. So it is being in neutral physically. Like we just don't have a get up and go. We don't have a drive button.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I, just
That was
even
a
to put
great
it in
analogy.
that perspective, that's what came to my mind. Yeah.
So the
So
second
that's what I wanted to say
surprising
about that
emotion that she
exhaustion.
put then was guilt. Guilt for continuing to
Mm.
live. So there are different aspects to guilt. So that's one for sure that
Mhm.
you feel like you shouldn't go on when your child is not there. So let's
Mhm.
elaborate on that one a
Or
little bit.
or have anything, and it gets easier, I do believe. Let me just, if I could, take an example
Mhm.
from your own life. You already said to the listeners that you're going to the opening game tonight, and you said it with joy and like, oh, you are joyful about going, you love it. But imagine going back, can you think about the first time you went without Andy? It's not the
Oh
same
my
feeling that you
gosh.
have tonight,
No.
right?
Do you know what's crazy about that is that so we got new seats that year. So every 5 years you can get new seats. First of all, Andy was going since he was little.
Mhm.
Since he was a little guy. We used to have
Mhm.
4 seats, then Peter was born, we got 5 seats. I mean, it was from little. Um so uh, anyway, it was difficult. He loved it. He loved going. He loved going so much. It was so hard to go to that first game without him, but we bought 5 tickets. Andy helped me pick out the tickets. So there's the seat reassignment. You log on this exact time. You have 15 minutes to pick out which seats you want. Andy was super into it. It was Andy and me on the computer picking out exactly what our seats should be. Well, we picked them out, and then so the basketball season obviously starts in November,
Mhm.
and this was done in the summertime, and he died on August 15th. So we actually didn't have to pay for the tickets until after he had died. Because
Mm.
that's later, and we don't get them until like October. So we could have, and Eric talked about like, well, we don't need 5 tickets anymore.
Mhm. Mhm.
I could not just buy 4 tickets. I could not. That first year, we bought Andy a ticket,
Mhm.
and we had
Mhm.
5 seats. And sometimes Peter brought a friend, sometimes the seat was empty. It just sort of depended on what ended up happening. I would say most of the time the seat was ending empty, but sometimes he took a friend. Maybe my daughter took a friend. Maybe Katie did. I don't think so. She just didn't have friends really interested in basketball.
Mhm.
Um, but I couldn't have somebody else in the seat. The
Mhm.
second year, we just went down to 4, and somebody else was in that seat occasionally. So it's very hard, obviously, to buy a single ticket. So this
Mhm.
ticket was in the middle of all of the seats, and it wasn't often that somebody would do that. It would be like a big game, like the Michigan State game, someone who was in that seat. There are other times somebody was in that seat, and it hurt. It hurt every
Mm.
time. Um Now where it's interesting because I always think, what would Andy be doing, right? So Andy should
Mhm.
be a senior in college this year, and he would be that Michigan State has this, the IZone, they call it, the student section. It's very, exciting. It's very fun for kids to be in. And I feel like he would be there. I feel like he would have gone to Michigan
Mhm.
State and he would have been sitting
Mhm.
in that IZone. So
Mhm.
I still think about Andy. Really, when we go to these games, I think about him all the time, right? All of the time. Um,
Mhm.
He's and it's funny because that's like an unexpected thing, right? Would be
Right.
something that you might not think, that I'm going to go to a basketball game and be thinking about Andy. But of course I am, because he loved it. I
Right.
mean, that was such a thrill for him every time.
Right. So it is a progression of that guilt, like we're still going, he's not here,
Yep.
he should be here, we can't give up his seat, which is the guilt that I believe she was talking about, like how you can,
Yeah.
she said, continue to live. But now you don't feel guilty about going to the game tonight, but you have not forgotten. It's that remnant, like
Yeah.
it's still not right, but
Yeah.
guilt
Still feels wrong.
isn't the prevailing emotion you have for going tonight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you agree? Yeah.
Yeah. I would
Yeah.
100% agree.
And it's kind of the same thing with those approaching their first holidays coming up, that guilt of how do we still have, you know, the joy. And you, through the years I've known you, it's been a progression, right? It changed so much last year for finally putting out the village and different things that you had done,
Yeah.
So I
Right.
just want listeners to hear that these surprising feelings catch us unaware, but it does change. I mean, it changes over time and there's a progression. And so that guilt is really a big one at the beginning, especially.
All right. Yeah. So now somebody just wrote in. So thank you, Melinda, for just writing in. Melinda wrote, my son loved his nieces and nephews so much. I find myself feeling guilty for enjoying their games and things. And he's fixing to be gone 7 years. So 7 years later, still feeling some guilt over that kind of stuff. For sure.
Yep.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes
For
a lot
sure.
of sense to me.
The next feeling that was written about was jealousy, that others still had their living children. And we kind of talked about that with resentment, but jealousy and that envy is the emotions not really talked about. And I laugh because, there's one verse about murder, one verse about adultery, and one verse about, I can't remember what in the commandments, but there's a couple about coveting. And that coveting what other people have. And I've said this so many times, many people don't struggle with jealousy. You can look and go, oh yeah, they have, a really nice car, or they have, an in-ground swimming pool, and, that'd be nice, whatever it is. But that true envy and jealousy that someone has something that you want that you can't have. It's different than just looking, go, oh, that'd be nice to have that. No, you long for it. It's more than, oh, just a passing, that'd be nice. It stews in there for a while.
Well, and that was the first emotion that we talked about, even at the end of the last live stream. If you remember, when we were talking about the unexpected emotions of grief, and that was the emotion actually that he first talked about. He went through all these unexpected emotions, and the very first one he talked about was envy. And that's what hit me, like, yeah, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about envy and what that feels like, and some of the other things that may pop up that you were really just not expecting. So I'm so glad we kind of were able to dive into that, and that several people talked about that.
Yes. Oh, because it's just not talked about very often, but it is a big part of it. Yeah.
So, all right. So next one that I want to read here is from Bonnie. Bonnie said, the first New Year's Eve really caught me by surprise. I thought I would be so happy to have that horrible year behind me. I was ready to celebrate it being over, but then it hit me that I would begin a new year without her in it. The first hours of the last few hours of the last year she lived on this earth were devastating to me. Love that she brought that up. She also then went on to say, to be honest, almost everything about grief in losing a child surprised me. So many different emotions I had never felt after losing so many people I loved. It's very confusing to me because it was just so very different and hard to explain or understand. But I did want to mention that New Year's Eve surprise. I was shocked by that. I expected Christmas to be horrible, and Christmas was bad, although maybe in some ways not as bad as I expected. But New Year's, holy cow, I just wasn't expecting it to be bad. And I think that's why it was so bad.
Yeah. Because we're not expecting
that?
it.
Are we alone there? Are Bonnie and I alone or no?
No, not at all. And a couple things. I mean, we did have someone say that they stayed up just to make sure that that bad year left. Like they had never stayed up throughout New Year's. I think it was one of our listeners in the years past just said I needed to know that it was gone. But I haven't heard that as much as I've heard the starting something new and that new thing coming that they're not a part of. They were not alive in this year. And that's why I think the days leading up to the 1 year is hard, because you can no longer say a year ago today.
Yeah.
They were alive. And so, those are
exactly.
really, really hard. Yeah.
Exactly. It was really hard. I remember because, I've told people this before. That first Christmas, we went to see my dear Aunt Penny, in Las Vegas. And so we stayed with her. I mean, we flew out on Christmas Eve. So the normal time we'd be doing presents. We're on an airplane. We get there like late in the night, went to bed, got up. I was with my cousins and family there, but it was totally different than normal. We'd never done Christmas out there. Of course, it's in Las Vegas. It's in the desert. There's no snow. There's a lot of that. It just felt better to do that. And then my cousin, he lived in Southern California at the time, and he and his family were going to go to Mexico. And so they said, you know what? Go stay in our house for New Year's. Stay there a couple days. We've got plenty of, room, whatever. Just make our house your house, and you can spend some time at the beach or whatever. So we did that. And that's the night I remember like it was yesterday, actually. I remember being in bed and having it be midnight and crying. Eric and I crying. We were just crying because this next year was going to be starting. And here we were trying to get away. We were trying to do something totally different. I mean, we went to the beach. They had like fun little activities for us planned, but gosh, I mean, there we were crying as midnight came. And it started, what's bad too, is it started at like 9. It started because it was midnight in Michigan, right? It was midnight in Michigan at 9, but then it wasn't there. So it was like 3-4 hours of me just being just an absolute mess, crying about this new year starting, and without a minute. I mean, it was just so horrible.
It is. Horrible. And, people ask me a lot about, wanting to move or change something and change the traditions, which oftentimes we have to do to make them tolerable. But I often say it's just geography. Like, your broken heart was with you, no matter what state you were in or whose home you were sleeping in that night or what beautiful surroundings you have. It's just geography. Your heart is what demands the attention and carries the feelings and the memories and the thoughts. And
so we've had a couple more people write in. Amber just wrote in.
Yeah.
I have a hard time thinking I'm starting another year without my babies. So true. Thank you, Amber, for that comment. And Amber's coming on from the YouTube channel, which I'm so excited. Somebody's joining us from the YouTube channel, so that's good. And then Nancy wrote in again about that surprising shock. She said, the other day I was walking in the mall and saw a store that my son used to frequent, and it totally threw me off. It was something out of the blue that hit me like a rock. Mentally, you can prepare for the holidays, etc., but this came out of the blue. So true, Nancy. I'm glad you brought up that point too. It's those we've talked about this before, the unexpected potholes, right? You see, I remember hearing this. I don't know if it was from you or from somebody else about potholes and speed bumps. That speed bumps you see coming, they're coming. There are signs warning you of speed bumps ahead. And so I think of the holidays, birthdays, anniversaries. Those are all speed bumps. I know they're coming. I slow down. Sometimes they're worse than expected, sometimes better than expected, but I know they're coming. The potholes, they just catch you off guard. You don't know they're coming. You can't prep for them. They're just completely out of the blue. So I love that she brought that up. I think that's a good point too.
Absolutely. And that's that gut punch where you're just stopped in your tracks. Like she used the description, hit me like a rock. Like it takes some recovery. I mean, you get bruised. If somebody gut punched you, you would have to stop and recover and go, oh, look how bad this hurt. Look at this bruise, or look at, and nobody sees it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but it needs some recovery too, because it stops you. It slows you down. It knocks you off kilter. And that's why, again, it's so exhausting.
Well, I want to make I want to say the next comment here was actually a positive comment. So thank you, Archie, for this one. One thing that surprised me in my grief was my ability to extend grace to those who didn't offer the support I thought they would. I think that's a great point too. I was not expecting someone to bring up kind of a positive, unexpected emotion, but I'm glad Archie did that, because there are little things that, like, you know, things that you surprise yourself that you're able to do.
Well, and I've had people say they've been surprised at their ability to talk at their child's funeral, or to create the funeral and go through it and make it what they wanted. They find a strength they didn't know they had, and that surprised them. Like, they didn't think they'd be able to do it, and they do those things. So yeah, we get surprised by grace and strength, and even sometimes laughter.
100%.
Or, you know,
like, you can do, that's the thing. You can do more than you think you can sometimes. I can't do this. I can't do this. I remember, I mean, I've said this on the podcast, I know, many times. My friend Michelle, all the time, because I would say to her, I can't do this. And her response to me was, Marcy, you are doing this. So, which is true. Like, I was doing stuff that I just did not think I ever possibly could do. But yet somehow, by the grace of God or whatever, I was able to do things that I never imagined possible. So I think that's another thing. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I have some other emotions that weren't written in about that I was.
And I've got one that I want to talk about.
Okay, well, you start with yours, because it could be one of mine.
So the biggest shocking emotion that I had was fear. I was not did not expect to feel terrified, but I did. The safety of my world was just destroyed. And it's funny, because I think it might surprise people to hear me say that, because, you know, I had a mom who died of cancer when I was young. It's not like I didn't know death. I did. And I knew the world wasn't a safe place, but I had fallen into this routine. And I guess I sort of thought, you know, that my bad thing had happened and that things were going to be okay now. And when Andy died, I just knew, I mean, like, this can happen once, this can happen again. I just was so terrified of many things, of losing another child, of having to live without Andy. I just felt like I was just a constant feeling of fear in my body that I didn't know. I just didn't think it would be there. I knew I would be sad. I knew I would miss him. And maybe even the guilt wasn't unexpected. Anger, I think, wasn't unexpected, because obviously, you know, we were in a car accident. That was someone's fault. That someone killed him. I can be angry at God for letting this happen. It can be all of that. I think I expected to an extent, maybe not the degree that things were, but the fear, I did not expect that. I did not.
Yeah, and it's another exhausting place to live life, but it's a natural response when what you assumed about the world, you know, that you were good. And that's the assumption that most of us feel safe in making, is that we are going to outlive our children, right? But now that's no longer anything that you couldn't take stock in. And yeah.
And I mean, I live in a world where I think I may outlive all my children. Now, is that logical thinking? No. But is it the thoughts that go through my mind? Of course. Of course it is. Of course it is. I mean, I've had to plan one funeral. Could I plan several more?
Well,
I certainly hope not, but yet I know it's not impossible.
Yep. And I mean, for me, it's a occupational hazard to live with the awareness of death every single moment. So there are times, we were driving to pick up my new car, and my husband was saying, now here's what I was thinking our plan would be, and I just want you to know where this money came from and do this and do that. And I said, why are you telling me this? He said, well, in case I'm not here in a few years when you have to get another new car. And I'm like, stop saying that. Like, now I have this thing, like, is he preparing me? Does he know something? Is that weird way of, because I hear people who say, my person said this, and did they know they were going to die? So then I just get a lot of fear sometimes that I
Yeah.
literally have to go, no, he was just telling me.
Yeah,
To,
that's a normal thing to say.
conversation. You just are buying a big purchase. I wanted you to know, like, this was what I was thinking. That's a normal thing for couples to do. And I was overridden with fear because
Right,
of the
right.
reality that many people do have to, make a decision without their person. Like that's
Mhm.
what happens. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I fear is one that we do have to take steps to overcome. And maybe that's something we can talk about another time, because it can get the best of us. It really can
Yeah.
snowball
'Cause it's
into
hard
something
to,
very overwhelming.
live like that. It's
Yeah.
really hard to live like that. And
Mhm.
it's a constant thing that I have to work on,
Mhm.
right?
Me too.
Certainly at the beginning, way more even than now, but still now, I still have to work on it.
Mhm. Oh, um, Amber said, I have to check myself. I fear being away from my children. I want them to progress, but
To
I am
progress.
also, yeah, a little bit relieved when my children don't want to go places or just want to stay home with me. Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that. I can
Yeah.
totally understand that you have that little bit of relief, like you want them to go, but
Yeah.
and then she went on to say, I worry my fear keeps my adult children from progressing in life. I
Mhm.
mean, that's the thing too.
Yeah,
The worry. I mean, it's fear and worry go
it
hand in
is.
hand.
It
Mhm.
is. And it's just, I mean, yeah, I feel it. It's love. It's the living in a reality that, things happen even that are so out of our control, and we just fear that that will happen again.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
um yeah, I could go down a different tangent, but I won't. But yeah, I just it takes us so many places, but I understand that. And I like where she started it off, said I have to check myself. And I think that's where you and I, both talk about we just have to use some critical thinking and check ourselves and say, wait a minute, I gotta trust, I gotta let them live life. This is a
Yeah.
normal conversation. Why do you think it means your husband's gonna die soon? Like,
Yeah.
why am I
Right.
doing
Right.
this? Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay, so you had a few other ones that you wanted to talk about
Well,
though, so go ahead.
yeah, I mean, one was, and it feeling fragile,
Yeah.
feeling I don't wanna say weak because I don't look at grief as weakness, but it is such a fragile time that you like, how people might look at you. If I go there, what are people gonna say? And then the other feeling of that is like a feeling, a misfit or misplaced in the world or in your if you
Yeah.
camped with people or you always went to basketball games or you always went to an event and now without your child, it's like, do we fit there? And you just feel um, out of place,
Wow.
like a
And
misfit.
and honestly, it's not even like those type of things. It's in general.
Yeah.
You go to an event with a whole bunch of women, and there are times when I feel like I don't fit with you. I
Mhm.
can't talk about the same things you wanna talk about. I just am not I like, you're just so changed that it
Yeah,
just doesn't work.
'cause they're
So,
so
I think
shallow, right?
it doesn't even have to
Yeah.
specifically have to do with your child.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Mhm.
And just, where you fit in the world because the things that other people worry about or talk about or stress about, you've already lived through the worst, so you're like, "Oh, I can't even listen to that."
Yeah. I mean, it's funny,
Mhm.
this last week of work I had a challenging week. I see a lot of kids that have struggles with anxiety and struggles with different things, and I saw a kid, and he's a younger kid, and I felt for him. I did, but he's like, well, life is just horrible. If it could get worse, just I don't know how it could. There's just no way it could get worse. And it was because a kid was picking on him in class, and it's and I obviously I sympathize with him, and I said the right things, but I'm thinking to myself, dude, you have no idea. Because he didn't really. He really like, really? You think it couldn't be worse? Because I can tell you a lot of things that could be worse. Because it's not like he was dealing with the death of someone in his family or anything like that. It was literally that a kid had picked on him that day in school, and I don't even think the kid really knew he was picking on him, to be honest. I just think he was being sensitive. So it's just hard to feel that sometimes, and oh gosh, it's a struggle.
Yes, it is. And you're in a professional role, you have to be professional. And sometimes as grievers, when we're not in a professional role, we have to wonder what's going to come out of our mouth. Now, for me, again, everywhere I go, people know I'm a grief counselor, but I went to a funeral where no one knew who I was. It was very strange that it happened, but I was visiting my parents, and like a great aunt, somebody died, and my dad said, well, some of your cousins may be there. Do you want to go? And long story short, I'm sitting next to a man who I do not know, who was in a walker, and there was a lot of sitting, standing, kneeling at this particular funeral service. And he was, every time that we were asked to stand, sit, or kneel, or change positions, I should say, he crabbed like out loud, like, oh, I just got comfortable now. Doesn't he know my knees are 90 years old and blah, blah, blah. And he was like complaining the whole time. And then when they said that the luncheon was somewhere else that we had to drive to, and he just started like complaining about having to drive to this luncheon. And you know what I said to him? I said, excuse me, sir, you seem very unhappy today with the movement and the placement of the luncheon. Would you like to trade places with, let's say her name, Francine?
Like, no, you did not. You said that?
I did. I'm like, it beats the alternative, buddy. Like, this is your other option. Dead or alive. Like, and I could not believe. And he
can't believe you said that. I really can't.
And
that is so not the grief counselor, Gwen. You would never do that had you known that.
Yes. And when I'm in places that people don't know me, I think the real me comes out a little bit, but or just like, and I just said it. I just said,
and I obviously didn't say to this kid, your mom could be dead tomorrow.
Right. Exactly.
That would be way worse.
Yep.
I did not do that. Yeah.
Then at the luncheon, I did sit with him, and I learned how he knew this person and what their relationship was like and about his life. And it was amazing. But when we were walking away, my son was with me, and when we were walking away, he said to my son, you've got a really special mom there, or something like that. And I'm like, okay, so really? I didn't totally offend him, but just putting in perspective, like sometimes you gotta, and that's why it's hard. Those listening to people complain when that heartache, I mean, and I know everyone's heartache is real of what they're going through, but to me, he was just trying to complain, and I couldn't have it at a funeral.
Yeah. Here we've got another comment. I like this one. I want to go into this a little bit. I listen to people say how they are more empathic. I feel more hardened in a lot of ways. I hope someday I won't have to pretend to be empathic. Ooh, that's a good one. I want to delve into that a little bit. Because in general, I feel like I am more empathic. I don't think I was right away. I don't think I was, but I think now I am, because now I just understand pain and anguish a little bit more. And in general, I think I am more understanding of where people are. And even if I don't feel like I would think that is painful and anguish, like this kid, right? I'm like being picked on by, I obviously don't think that's the worst thing that could happen to him. I know it's not the worst thing that could happen to him, even though he specifically kind of said to me, I don't know that life could be any worse. I can't imagine how it could be worse, almost like challenging me to tell him ways that it could be worse, which I did not do. But I actually do feel more for him, than I probably would have before. Because I understand that, gosh, he's really hurting,
Yes.
and let's come up with ways to try to keep him from hurting. But I do think she's right here in that some people feel more empathy towards others, and some are like, yeah, whatever, I can't. And honestly, even
Mhm.
with me, I think it depends on the situation with
Mhm.
how you're feeling. So let's dive into that. I want to hear your perspective
Mhm.
on that. Like
I
feeling empathic or feeling more hardened?
I think it's both. I think it's those carrying both, having space for both emotions, right? The moving on, but hanging on to the old. We talked about the realities of grief being so, such a paradox and so opposed to each other. But I do think that we can look and go, I don't ever want anyone to feel pain, but
Yeah.
hardened that other people don't feel it or they don't understand our own pain.
Uh-huh.
I get it. It's both, I
Yeah.
think. I really
Yeah.
do.
I almost feel like this could be a whole episode in and of itself,
Yeah, I do
right?
too.
I
Because
mean,
I can think, yeah, of
and I
but
think just to be accepting of the fact that it can be both.
yeah.
And I actually suspect for her, it is a little bit of both. I know she says she feels more hardened, but I know her personally, and I know she's got a
Mhm,
soft heart for people going through pain. Um,
mhm,
For sure too. So I think she's being a little hard on herself,
mhm,
that she's always more hardened, because I don't think that's true.
mhm.
But yeah. Mhm. I
Yeah,
like
and
that. I
and
think that was
having to
good.
pretend, that's one of the
Yeah.
other
And
surprise
definitely having to
emotions
pretend.
about grief is that we do have to put on a mask or a face more than we thought that we would. Because if I
Yeah.
really, you know, um, yeah, and being present to someone when or to a situation where we're hurting, sometimes we do have to put on the mask that we care.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
really don't, or,
Yeah. You're
um,
right.
yeah, so I
You're
do
right. I
think that
still
that's
like to think
something.
about that. It's such a it
Yeah.
worked timing is weird in many ways, but, I went back to work really to my full kinda time position
Mhm,
in January of 2020. So Andy died in 2018. I went back to work for a while, then I left
mhm,
shortly after Halloween of 2018. And then I came back around the next November, just doing some walk-in clinic, just kind of little bits. But then come January, that's when I really started back in my kind of
mhm,
normal hours in January. And then, of course, if y'all remember, in March 2020, it's when the
mhm.
pandemic hit. So it's when everybody had to start wearing a mask all the time. And it was for me, I can so think back to that being like, I had put on an emotional mask and I had to put on a physical mask. It was
Mhm.
it was it's sort of a beautiful analogy that that's when that all happened, for me to have to do all that.
Yeah,
So, I
yeah,
hated
it
having
is
to wear that physical mask, but yeah, in some ways it hid the tears and was sort of
right,
nice. Mhm.
and that's we've said this so much, but that's why being with like-minded people or people going through the same thing that we are is that we don't have to wear the mask and we can have these
Yeah.
conversations that we're having and say, "Yes, I felt that way too," because it normalizes us, and we do know, and you've said this so much, that the rest of the world doesn't know. We don't want them to know, but they really don't know.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so that's the reality, is that we're also living in a world or in friendships or in jobs with people who, coworkers who just don't know.
Yeah.
They don't understand. Um, what about, were you ever embarrassed with what you were feeling, Marcy? I mean, like, did you remember feeling embarrassed?
Well, you know what? I think that kind of leads into our next question. So let's go on to the next question that we
Okay.
posted, which is, are there some feelings that you keep hidden in your grief? And you don't have to share what
Mhm.
they are, but maybe why you kept them hidden. So that, I think, goes into that, is like feeling ashamed and not wanting to others to know, and not wanting others to see that. So
Mhm.
maybe let's talk about that
Me
a little
too.
bit.
Okay.
So So Andrea wrote, and I have feelings that I keep to myself because they're so personal. Sharing them would feel like I'm sharing something that it's impossible for others to fully
Mm,
grasp. I like that.
mhm,
It's a really, really
mhm,
nice comment. Um, and definitely so true. So that's a good reason that it's just too personal. And I think I've
mhm,
talked about that in the past too, about how I feel like in my grief, when you meet somebody new, when something comes in, do I tell them? Do I not tell them? And I've definitely gotten to the point of, do they deserve it? Do they have that right to know?
mm,
And if I feel like, yeah, I'm going to continue to have a relationship with this person, I kind of want them to know, then then
mhm,
I tell it. But if it's someone that I'm meeting in passing that I don't feel like has, like, earned that, then I'm gonna keep it in because that's a personal thing that I don't
mhm,
have to share with everybody. So I think that goes
mhm.
into that a little bit. Mhm. What do you
Well,
thought?
and I
What are your
think when things are so yeah, when it's so close to our heart, the example that I could use is like if you and your spouse aren't getting along and you risk telling somebody, then the person can say, yeah, well, they're such a jerk. I can't believe they acted that way. And but you love them and you want to defend them then like, well, I shouldn't have told you because you don't
Yeah,
understand the whole thing and you don't love them like I do. So now that person thinks your person is a jerk and you learn not to tell people those really close
yeah.
things. We learn that in relationships. I do think we have to learn that in grief too. That other
Yeah.
people just are going we make ourselves vulnerable to their, you know, unsolicited advice, cattiness, lack of understanding, their flippant answers, whatever it is. And that's what makes it personal because it's so precious that I can't tell you and take the risk that you're going to stomp on this
Yes.
thing and you're not going to get it anyway. So you just keep it so close to the
Yeah. Right.
chest.
Right.
Yeah.
That is it. I think it is just a fear of being hurt more
Mhm.
by a comment that you don't want, and then
Mhm.
it's just easier to just hide it. It's just so much easier to hide it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
Or just to keep
Mhm.
it, I think sometimes hiding makes it seem like it's an unhealthy thing. I don't
No,
think everything is meant to
no.
be shared. I think there are things that are you're healthy in the keeping it close to your chest, like
Yeah,
keeping those
yeah.
things not out there for everybody to know.
Well, and I
Yeah.
used to feel guilty, like I needed to tell everyone that I met about Andy
Mhm.
because, like, I don't
Mhm.
wanna act like he didn't exist. Like, if somebody asks me how many kids I have, I'm gonna 100% mention it every single time that I had Andy and Andy has died. I mean, now I will say how many kids I have, and then I will go on and say another comment, just but I won't say all the stuff, like volunteer that he's gone, right?
Mm.
Because it just ends up making people feel uncomfortable, or like we said earlier, there's unsolicited comments that you don't want to hear.
Mhm.
I just don't want that. So I don't lie, but I just don't say everything. And
Mhm.
that's I think what I do. And like you said, it's not yeah. Anyway, I don't know how to clarify
Yeah.
that further, but
No.
maybe I don't need to.
No, I get it. No, I don't think so. But that goes back to the other comment says jealousy due to judgment. Like we keep the jealousy a secret because we don't want people to judge. Like, what, you can't be happy for me? You know,
I
if
know.
and it's
I
like, what,
know.
you
I
can't be
loved that
sad for
comment
me?
again. So we already talked about jealousy, but
Mhm.
you're right. She's 100% right. That's one that you don't want to admit. You don't want to admit
Mhm.
this to other people because then they
Mhm.
think you're kind of a jerk too. And like, I mean, some people
Mhm.
maybe understand, but others are like, really? Really? You're jealous
Yeah.
over me for this?
Yeah. Or
That is
can't
one
you
that
be
you hide.
happy for me? And it's
Yeah.
like,
Why can't you be happy
if
for me?
someone wants to be married and they're single and they go to everybody's bridal showers and weddings and, someone who wants a baby and they have to go to baby showers and this and that. And everyone just says, but I know you want it, but can't you just be happy for us? When someone longs for something, it's like, I I can't keep putting my heart in this spot because it hurts so bad that you are to celebrate someone else again having something that I don't have. So, and when your
Well,
child
I'm gonna
dies,
go back to what I'm gonna go back to is, high school graduation parties. I just say,
yes, yes.
when I have not been to that many high school graduation parties since Andy died. They are just so painful. And
Mhm,
that is, I think, a perfect example of,
mhm,
like, can't you just be happy for me? Whatever. We went to one right away. Um, the first year after Andy died, I started crying. I had to leave. I went and sat in the car while Eric did all the normal stuff and talked to people. And I said to him, like, you don't need to leave. I'm leaving. Like, you do not need to leave. And he did
mhm,
stay. Some of our best friends, my friend Kara and her husband, their son, they had a son right between Andy and Peter. And he graduated, and we didn't go to his graduation party. I did have one for Peter, we had one with his best friend because he really
mhm.
wanted one. My daughter didn't. It worked out fine because it was a pandemic and, like, nobody did anyway, and so it wasn't, like, a big deal because
Mhm,
I think very few people really had them that year because of
mhm,
COVID, but Peter wanted one, and so we did have one with a friend and went through it. I went to my niece's this year, but when my nephew had his the year after Andy should have had his, I didn't go. When our best friends had it, I didn't go. Now, their daughter is graduating this year in the spring, and I expect we will go. So
mhm,
it just really depends on where you are and where your heart is, whether you can do some things like that. But that's that
mhm,
jealousy and not really wanting to admit why I can't go, but I
mhm.
can't go. I
Yep.
mean, usually we just say, "Oh, we're out of town, we can't make it, whatever." But really, it's that kind of envy,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, very much so. Melissa has a comment. She said, last year I attended several of Chelsea's friends' weddings, and now this year I'm attending baby showers. It hurts me, but I am also excited because I know Chelsea would be excited and I'm happy for the friends. Yeah, and that's that. We can still be happy for them and be sad for ourselves, but early on, it's really hard to do. And if you find yourself not being able to go, just to know that
Yeah.
that's not something to
And
be,
great for Melissa that you can, but also
yeah,
totally okay if you can't.
yeah,
Totally.
yeah. It's for when you watch other people having, those things in life that your child should have had, it's just another gut punch. It's a big
Mhm.
reminder.
Yep.
Mine is
Yep.
baby showers. It's been 14 years since my first lost, and I dread those. I can send a gift, but going is so heartbreaking. Yes.
Mhm.
Oh, so much so. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so you know what? I gotta tell you something, Gwen. When we
What?
started, there was no response, no answer to our live stream question number 3. And guess what? In the last hour, we've
What?
gotten an answer to live stream question number 3. So we're gonna
Oh,
do that.
good.
This one
Let me
is
find it.
was a little bit different, worded a little bit differently. So have you ever wondered why blank is never talked about in grief? So just another kind of those unexpected things.
Mhm,
So this is what uh this is what Andrea wrote in. Have you ever wondered why the profound sense of isolation is never talked about in
mhm,
grief?
mhm, mhm.
Great comment, Andrea.
It is. And when I teach on grief, I talk about this because what it is it's almost it's a twofold isolation. It is other people isolate us because they don't understand. We may not even get invited. I mean, I've talked about couples and people who get uninvited to things because their world has changed, whatever that is. So that's, a true isolation. They've been removed from the euchre club because they don't have a partner, whatever it is. Um, but then the isolation that happens because everywhere we go, we feel like we don't fit in, or there's pain, or it's hard, or it's exhausting. Then we begin to withdraw and isolate ourselves, right?
Mhm.
For protection connection, for recovery, for whatever it is. And it is very isolating.
Yeah.
And that's the work of grief, is to figure out how to do the work and still be connected in life. Because if we completely isolate, it makes healing very, very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the
And then I
balance
think
that
you
I
need to
have to.
find the people that you can be around so that you're not feeling isolated in at least certain situations, right?
Yes.
Certain situations you are still going to feel isolated. But hopefully you can find a place where you do not feel so alone and so lost.
Right.
Right.
Well, even
And
that's
whether
why,
it's support groups and things like that we're doing, which, by the way, those support groups are starting back up again next week. So if you want to be in a Starlight support group, virtual support group with me, one of the ones in the evening, email Chris at starlightmen.org and get yourself involved, because that can be at least that 1 hour and 15 minutes a week where you come on with a group. You're not going to feel isolated. You're going to feel like you're a part of the group and you fit in.
Yeah,
so that was a little plug, last second plug. Hopefully Chris is not mad at me for giving this
last minute
just a few days before the next session starts, but I love it.
That's what I was going to say. We just spent 58 minutes talking about things that people don't talk about all the time. And I hope somebody felt less isolated. Like that you feel like, oh gosh, they just said something that I was, afraid, embarrassed, challenged about not sharing. And so, but it is.
And I was just going to say, I mean, I get that a lot from, I've said so many times on the podcast, like, this is not a podcast that you can binge. Okay. I'm so wrong. This is a podcast people binge, and people binge, I think, because they feel isolated. And when they listen to the podcast, they don't. They feel like, I'm not alone. I am a part of this group. And I can listen to this about other kids, about other moms and dads, and I could feel a little less alone, and a little less isolated. So I am so glad Andrea wrote that comment in the last half an hour, because it is a beautiful way to kind of wrap this up, I think.
It is, but now the counselor in me wants to say one other piece of that. Sometimes, and I'm not saying this is the case with the writer who wrote the question, but it just brings something to my mind that I always feel like I want to give those who feel isolated because of a secret, unknown, battle that the person, either like something really that they just can't share in a group or with others or whatever, that it can be very isolating. And that's where you don't have to be part of a group and air it in front of people, but just have at least one person that you can talk to about that. So I just want to say that, because some people still will be going, wait a minute though, if I told you blah, 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 blah,
True. Good point. Excellent point, Gwen. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we are wrapping up, and I am going to stick really closely to the hour, because our Instagram feed is working, and that's going to turn off in about a minute and a half. So I do want to anything else you wanted to say, Gwen?
No, I have 4 other emotions that I had written down that we didn't get to, but I just put a big flag or a circle around them, and we'll just save them maybe for another conversation, because we can't get into them. We had a lot of good other things.
A lot of good discussion. Okay, so our next live stream will be the week of Christmas. I would like to do, so hopefully that's going to work out with Gwen. You're just learning about this now. We are going to see what we want to do. If we want to stick with this afternoon, if we want to go to evening. I almost think we will stick with afternoon. I feel like our engagement was not a lot different. And especially at Christmas time, I feel like evenings are so incredibly busy. So I think afternoon would probably be better. We are doing it that week before Christmas. Hopefully we'll let you know the time when we get a little bit closer, but it's because Christmas Day is a release day, and I never want to do like a regular episode on something like Christmas. If people have thoughts on what they want that topic to be for Christmas week, please email Marcy at andysmom.com. write a comment in the live stream here if you're watching later on as to what things you might want us to kind of talk about. We've talked about different things at Christmas time. Give us some other ideas and thoughts on what you might want to hear about and on Christmas Day or those days before. So anything else, Gwen? Otherwise,
Nope,
I think we should
I'm writing ideas for it and we can talk about it. So it's always I hope a very unifying and non-isolating conversation. I believe that's what it is, and I hope that's what came across, that all feelings are information, they belong. Some are overwhelming and scary, but
all right. Yep. Thank you so much for listening.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.